Hello, I'm Julie McCrossan. Welcome to this special program from the Rural Health Education Foundation. In the past 10 years, the number of cases of child abuse and neglect in Australia has more than doubled. Research is now confirming that the families who find it hard to provide a safe and loving environment for their children are often families who are isolated in some way. You're less likely to be at risk of neglecting or abusing your kids if you have strong social networks and if you're connected to your extended family, friends and neighbours.
It's good to know that there's people out there that are willing to help, give up their free time and help us.
This program looks at some examples of early intervention and prevention, showing how we can better support the families in our communities.
It made me feel what I could be doing that's going to make me a better dad.
It takes a village to raise a child is a familiar proverb. In this context, it means that the knowledge and strength of a whole community is essential to the raising of happy, healthy children. It means we have a shared responsibility to help parents provide a safe environment for our children.
Our long-term goal is to teach people here so then they can in time teach their own families and keep going teaching each other and remind each other that they are still strong.
We'll see how people are building a sense of community by sharing experiences and providing support for each other.
It's nice to sit with other fathers and listen to their problems they have with their kids, and I can say, yeah, look, I'm having the same problem.
We can begin to reduce isolation and neglect by something as simple as providing a place for disadvantaged groups to meet and to talk. This helps them to form their own networks. In Mildura, a rural town in Victoria, a youth worker and a maternal and child health nurse realised that young teenage mums were in need of support. So they got together to do something about it and started a Young Mums program.
The town itself is around 60,000. In Mildura we have the second or third, I think, highest rate of teen pregnancies in the state.
That's about it, thank you.
The Young Mums program started just with maternal and child health 5 years ago, and then this year it's being run at the youth centre as a partnership with youth services with a Connections program.
We found we were having a lot of young mothers. They were accessing maternal and child health services, but not mothers groups. They felt intimidated to attend mothers groups with older aged women. They felt that they were looked down upon, so we decided to tap into maternal and child health services and asked if we could run a joint program where I could help build upon the young people's skills and confidence. So each week Robin and I alternate. 1 week Robin will do maternal and child health stuff and I will do more about the young mums on my weeks. Dealing with their needs might be housing, counselling, drug and alcohol, or just general support on how they're going.
We're getting a bottle. Hey, settle. Nah, she has panic attacks, like her mother. And then
Definitely isolation plays a big part in child abuse and neglect. Not so much that we're rural, but there isn't a lot to do in small towns.
And it's just good to meet other mums that are basically around about your age, and your children gets to play with other kids too.
Well, I don't really see my friends very often from school, so I like to come here and talk to the girls and see what they're up to and what's new.
Coming here I'm able to make some new friends and talk to people, actual people that are alive and not constantly a baby or a cat.
Those mums just really do have a lot of particular needs. They just are different to deal with and work with. And I'm really talking about mums from about 14, 15 to 19 or 20. She's beautiful, isn't she? What happened here? A little scratch today.
Yeah, I think her cousin did that.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. It's helped me grow just mentally. You have to grow mentally with your child. You can still be like, I'm still very childish and I like Winnie the Pooh, and my daughter has all Winnie the Pooh, but like mentally I've grown up more because you've got to be able to teach your children stuff, and if you don't grow up you can't teach them that. Yeah, it's not just skills, it's emotionally and mentally and all other ways. So yeah, it's a good group.
A lot of the things that we do with the young mums is related to life skills, but they need to learn these life skills while their babies are growing and while they're needing the parenting skills.
So don't stress over stuff that's just the normal run-of-the-mill. Only stress about the big stuff.
I feel that the program that we offer to the mums is actually helping to make a difference with child abuse and neglect, because we're educating the mothers of what to expect. We talk about times of stress and how to manage that stress so that they don't get cross with the baby. They tend to know how to deal with problems. Just last week we were talking about teething and what to expect with that, and often that's a time when babies are crying a lot, and mothers, if they know that it's going to happen, they seem to be able to deal with it better.
I feel if the mums are supported, then when she does get into a crisis with either her baby or herself, she at least was able to come to me, and that happened several times when things were really hard at home for various reasons, partners and things, stressed. We talked about babies, not shaking babies, right from the very first time we see them. We talk about never shake a baby and tell them strategies not to do in those early days. And the group work certainly does not stop postnatal depression, but it helps to lessen the severity of it.
So it's about making time for yourself, making time to look after your babies, and having some fun in your life.
A lot of them don't have transport, given that they're young, don't have a licence, or they don't have the money to buy a car. So it's a big thing. We transport majority of the young mums to and from program.
I find actually in the car is quite a good place for talking. They'll often come out with things like, oh, well, this has happened, I didn't get paid, or I haven't got any money, or just recently one of the girls had a breakdown in her relationship with her boyfriend, so they moved out of the unit they were in, and she moved back with her sister, and that was a very stressful situation. And then her sister kicked her out of home, so she was basically homeless. So we rallied around and found some support for her, so she got some temporary accommodation, and now she's actually settled back into a new place. But that was quite a stressful time, and that's the sort of things we do.
It's a positive program because it's teaching them that they are worth it. Yes, you have got a baby, but oh well, we'll deal with it now. There is still time in life. You're only young, there's still time for you to go to school, get an education and make something of your life. Just because you've had a baby, it doesn't hold you back.
Now, what about fathers? They are so important in their kids' lives. But as you might imagine, it's not easy to engage fathers in discussions about parenting or about how they relate to their kids. And it's certainly not easy to get them doing it in a group. So let's have a look at a very fresh attempt to do just that.
Grab your packs because we'll be needing the hooks and sinkers and everything in the pack.
The fishing fathers have come about through Shoalhaven Division of General Practice, having an active youth health program that's been going for the last decade. And we've been looking at how we could engage fathers in attending parenting workshops, and somebody came up with the bright idea of doing something such as fishing, and I guess it came from there.
What I'm going to try and do today is teach you guys a little bit more about fishing, but with a very strong slant about how to take your kids fishing to make sure they stay safe, to make sure they have a good time, and most importantly to make sure they're going to want to do it again. I've got some prawns there for bait. They're probably the most basic and universal fishing bait. I'm going to start under the tail there, and it's just a matter of twisting the bait around the hook as you feed it on. That's about all you need to catch a leather jacket or a modest sized bream. I was approached by Southern Area Division of General Practice and asked if I'd be willing to come and lend my expertise on the fishing front. They never had any problem getting mothers to come along to parenting groups, but whenever they advertised them for fathers, they got very, very poor attendance, and they decided that they needed a hook, and the obvious hook was fishing. I mean, most guys like to go fishing, and because I've got a bit of a profile in the fishing game, a lot of them wanted to come along and learn about it from me, and we ended up, we were knocking people back the first time, and this is the third one. I think it's a model that could be used in other areas as well.
Do people find it difficult to work out how much risk to allow their kids to take?
My child has no fear. She'd just go headlong straight into that water without even thinking about it.
There's certainly a perception that men have difficulties talking about emotional issues and those softer sort of issues like parenting, but they're probably either just a little embarrassed or not motivated enough to go to something that's just advertised as a parenting workshop. But the fishing gives them an excuse to go there, and I'm sure you could do the same thing with sailing or bushwalking or four-wheel driving or whatever worked in your particular area, and get the fathers in that way and then talk to them about parenting.
I just thought it would be really a good, skillful thing to go and meet other men, whether they be single or just parents, and just meet other people, talk about the kids, learn some positive parenting skills, which I certainly did learn. A lot of women have got their own outlets, but majority of the time men, like myself, I mean, we work full time. It's very hard to get out and talk to other men going through similar type circumstances with their children. I mean, yes, you go to the pub, but you don't talk about the kids.
But it's been a roller coaster ride with the kids.
Well, it must have been a huge roller coaster.
Since we moved here from Tasmania, my wife contracted cancer, and she'd been through a rough period with that, and she only recently passed away about 6 weeks ago. And I'm left now with 3 young kids, and been the main breadwinner all my life, and now I'm thrust into the single parent role with, having to learn all these, what's the right thing to do for children, what's the wrong thing.
Do most of you think that you're trying to do things differently to what your fathers did with you?
I've given my children a lot more love than my father gave me, I think. Just a lot more cuddles and kisses, I don't mind, they're boys, so what, they still need to be cuddled. And my dad always took me out fishing and done a lot of things with me. He's a great father. But I just think he didn't show enough affection for me. When I walk inside and my boys see me, they latch on, and I don't want to ever lose that feeling.
How do we set limits, and how do we make those limits effective?
I always say you go to your room and I'll be there in about 5 minutes, because if you hit a kid when you're angry, then you know,
there's always a danger you might lose.
It's a scary, tense thing. It's bad.
You kind of just know, I think, what's the right thing to do. Whether you growl them, whether you smack them on the bum, or whether you lock them in their bedroom. I mean, it comes to times when you're just so frustrated and something has to be done.
My 12-year-old, I think I smacked her 3 times, and that was when she was probably between sort of 2 and 4. But with my 2-year-old now, my voice just doesn't work.
I think that we're really well placed as GPs to be doing this type of work because people see us as a credible source of information, and I learn a lot about what fathers think of fathering from doing a workshop that makes you respond differently in your consultation as well.
Part that came out of the workshop was that, yes, what I could be doing that's going to make me a better dad. Instead of raising your voice all the time to the children, talking to them. Show me your eye. Nothing's in there. All clear, probably a bit of salt water. Trying to think about when you were a child yourself.
The idea of prevention underpins a lot of the whole basis of our program, that every parent has the intention of being the best parent that they can, but some parents don't have the training, the education, the assistance, the background to be able to fulfil their potential as a parent. And so you would hope that if you improve people's capacity to parent, that will result in a reduction in the problems that you might see, such as child abuse.
And finally, a very different story, but based on the same understanding that a strong community is essential to children's well-being and development. In October 2007, Kalumburu, an Indigenous community in Western Australia, was devastated when a number of its young men were arrested on charges of child sexual assault. To help their community recover from the trauma, the members contacted Professor Judy Atkinson from the Guinea College at Southern Cross University.
When the community first contacted me, I responded immediately. When there's a crisis and people want things to change and they ask for help, well, a successful outcome is more likely.
Over a 2-year period, Judy and her team are conducting a series of workshops designed with the cooperation of the elders, men and women. They plan to restore the community so that it fosters care and support for everyone, especially the children. Such rebuilding doesn't happen overnight, and the project is very much in its early stages. We filmed in Kalumburu during the team's second visit.
Today we're creating a safe place around the mango trees. It's an open space where everyone can come down. The water around the circle symbolises creating the safe place within the circle, which is really important. We're providing a very safe place for people to come in and share their stories, and it allows them to talk about all their feelings, knowing that no one else is going to know about it. It doesn't go outside the circle.
I'm the director of the Healing Circle at Guinea. Circle stands for the Collaborative Indigenous Research Centre for Learning and Educare. There was a pain here, confusion and shame. You see, historically, many in the community were themselves abused by Europeans they trusted. People feel safe working with us here, outside under the mango trees, and that's where we create the Healing Circle. Community rebuilding is about helping people to tell their own stories and to listen to each other. I call this community healing.
The best way to do this work is holistically, of course, and we have to include the elders. We've got the elders, which is the old grannies and the old grandfathers. Then you've got the aunties. Then you've got the young mums. Then you've got the teenagers. Then you've got the little kids. So there's about 6 different layers of people. We work with the elders first, gain their trust, let them know what we're here for.
Trauma recovery is a journey towards healing, and this can begin when people feel safe enough to ask the hard questions like, why were the children abused? Who brings in the grog? Who's behind the supply of the drugs and the pornography? Through painting, dancing, story maps, we help people to find the courage to first describe their pain and then discover, and this is important, their hope and their resilience. So first they tell themselves what's wrong, and then they tell each other what they have to do about it. That's what we teach at Guinea, how to encourage people to tell their story and to help the community build solutions.
Auntie, you want me to take that damper? Yep.
We were invited to come to this beautiful community to see if we could come up with a program of solutions to help get the community back on its feet and families be happier again and relationships start to work again and people to understand, the dangers of drugs and alcohol, that they aren't the answer to dealing with your problems.
Circle work links communities to the university and it's supported by the government. It's educational, or as I call it, educaring. Community change starts with those who want change. If this community has the courage to do the work, we'll sit in the circle with them and we'll learn with them. It doesn't happen all at once. People come to the circle of healing when they're ready.
We teach education which is appropriate to their lifestyles, and at this community the education should be based around the strong culture that they have here, the fact that they live on the land, they're still well connected, and it's paramount that we teach our kids the old ways so we can survive.
When before war or after the war, for the same, we were happy, children were happy, go to school, happy way, no argue, taga every day. But now we find pretty hard living. You need to take money. But those days, kangaroo, bullock, turtle, fish after fish. And that's why children never died, children never went sick, nothing. They were happy as a bird.
Raise themselves for fishing.
As the old people, the elders, they share their stories. They're reclaiming the traditional law, and that says that all children are sacred. We need to honour the courage of the elder who listened when she heard her grandchild's cry for help. She helped her community see there's something wrong, and she began to do something about it. Now, they're helping themselves, and we have a commitment to be there with them.
Since China and Nowra came, well, everything is starting to come good now, you know, with the young ones. We like more of that, you know. There's quite a few young people around about us, you know. They need more help.
Yeah, when I came here, there was a community in crisis, a shattered community, and a community that wants to heal and go forward and get out of all those things that hurt in this place. And a part of that in particular is the men of this community, where there has been different levels of support for women and children, but there was hardly anything here for the men. We decided when we got here that I'd start a men's group. Once a week we get together and talk about our problems that we're having, and then we work out ways of how do we address them.
What about the kids running amok and we got to put up with all that?
And why they do it.
It's not about the activities, you know. Only one activity they have is basketball. Basketball. Every year, all year round is basketball.
I was offered a job here with the Kalumburu Aboriginal Corporation. I supervise a small mowing crew, and that has helped me to work in every yard in the community, and which in turn helped me to get to know the people in that household and what kind of problems they were facing as family issues or whatever. Young Ian, when I first came here, a very friendly young man, very proud of his culture here.
This one here, this is a bush apple tree.
Always involved in putting together activities for the youth of his age, boys and girls.
A lot of kids go mad over this, and all these things that look like a kangaroo. Mildura, you remember flying fox?
Ian has been accepted at Southern Cross University, Lismore, and with him completing his studies, the rest of the youth in this community will see that and say, hey, I'd like to step up like Ian did.
That's where the strength is going to come from themselves, you know. The strength that we have inside of us, we share it. We learn from our elders, it gets passed on to us, we pass it on to our young people, and the cycle goes on.
Yeah, it takes a community to rear a child, but it takes a strong, healthy community to raise healthy, strong kids. If we help the parents to love and protect their kids, even in ways they've not been protected themselves, then we're building a generation of strong and happy kids. And then they'll be loving and caring parents themselves. And that's all we can ask for.
What we've seen here are 3 attempts on the part of some very dedicated people to rebuild a sense of community. Whether it happens beside the river, at the local youth centre or under a mango tree, building a strong, caring community is vital to the health and welfare of our children. And if you'd like more information, visit the Rural Health Education Foundation's website. We can be stronger together.